Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo echsar. Binoteh sheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot yanachaleni. Nafshi shovei. Yanacheni v'maglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki reilech v'geitz al mavet lo yirarai ki ata imati. Shiftecha mishantecha hema yanachamoni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorirai. Dishanta v'shemen roshi kusiri vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yerdifuni kol yamei chayai v'shaviti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. In these moments when we are in need of comfort and consolation, we often turn to the psalmist. And so in seeking strength, I ask that you join me as we recite together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember Elaine Roth. To you, Dan, and to your children, David and Linda, also to Annie and Alan, and we also remember today Elaine's daughter-in-law, Sue, of blessed memory, and to her grandchildren, Jessica and Alec, Robert, Alex, and Stephen, to her sister-in-law, Marilyn, who is viewing today's service in California via live stream, to all of the members of the family and to so many friends who have come together today. We're here to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Elaine. Our sages have taught us that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness, from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Elaine's journey began in 1935 in Meadville, Pennsylvania. She was the only child born to Louis and Bessie Rawson. Her father owned a men's clothing store, and her mother also worked in the store. The family had their share of struggles as they made their way through some of these most difficult and challenging years in our nation's history. And Dan, you became fully aware of this when, on your wedding day, Elaine's father handed you his daughter's dental bills. Somehow, though, Elaine and her family found their way. She grew up in her small Pennsylvania town where she attended Corey Area High School. She remained a good student. She played clarinet in their marching band. She helped out in her parents' store. She was active in her Jewish youth group, and she also managed to find time to enjoy spending time with her friends. Among these pals was Lou Bates, a lifelong girlfriend with whom Elaine and Dan would remain close. Lou and her husband Jack, of blessed memory, visited the Roths in the Outer Banks just 2 years ago. In the fall of 1954, Elaine matriculated to Penn State University, where she majored in early childhood education. Upon earning her degree, Elaine found her way to Cleveland, where she began working at Higbee's department store downtown as a buyer trainee. Now also working alongside Elaine was Elaine Roth, and Marilyn wanted to introduce Elaine to her brother Dan. Dan, at the time you were working as an accountant for Ernst & Young, and when your sister told you that she had a plan to fix you up with this young lady, you were not too enthusiastic initially. You decided to be a bit of a detective, and you wanted to check out Elaine on your own, and you did just that. You saw her, and you decided that asking her out on a date might be a good idea. Dan, you recalled your first date was a dinner date at Howard Johnson's in University Circle, and days after that first date, you got a phone call from one of your buddies. He wanted you to know that he heard there was an attorney in town who was planning on asking Elaine out on a date. You told your friend not to worry. You said, "I've got this covered." And so, you asked Elaine out on a second date. This time you told her you wanted her to meet her parents, your parents. And she was delighted about this. She was quite excited to meet your mom and dad. There was a bit of deception, though, Dan, as your real motivation was to be at your parents' home that Saturday evening in order to watch the Browns-Steelers football game. You even remembered that the Browns won that game. The next morning, Sunday, you and Elaine went for a drive, and as you traveled along Somme Center Road, you pulled the car over, you stopped, and you began to explain to Elaine that you were about to serve our country. You were ready to go into the United States Army. As the two of you tried to figure out how your relationship would continue or even survive, Elaine blurted out, "Well, we could get married." Now, this is after the second date. And you said, "Okay." But Dan, you admitted to me that you knew from that very first date that she was the one. We might say it was Beshert. A month later, the two of you were engaged, and you married on December 29th, 1957, in her hometown of Corey, PA, in that little shul that finally, after 103 years, was able to have a Jewish wedding ceremony. Elaine accompanied you as you journeyed to Fort Lee, Virginia, where you were stationed. And when the two of you returned to Cleveland, you eased into a routine that included a lot of together time. And together time for you and Elaine seemed to always be fun time. Together you played golf and tennis. You went sailing At first, it was a small rented two-seater that you would squeeze into and try and learn how to sail with. You eventually purchased a 16-footer that could hold all 4 members of the Roth family, and you named the boat the Ah. That was the name of the boat. Ah, because when all 4 of you could actually sit down at the same time in this boat, everyone said, Ah. And that was a lot of fun for the whole family. You, Dan, you and your beloved engaged in cross-country skiing, and you finally convinced her to try downhill skiing. She really just wanted to sit and enjoy the ski lodge's hot chocolate by the fireplace, but you encouraged her to try it just once, and she did, and then she was permanently hooked. Elaine actually grew to be a very good skier. You enjoyed a timeshare in Colorado and continued skiing as a couple and as a family in several areas. The 2 of you enjoyed your time and your friends at the Lake Forest Country Club in Hudson, and together you played billiards. You said she was pretty good at this as well. You enjoyed playing cards with your friends. But above all, Elaine enjoyed spending time with family, especially David and Linda. As a family, there were wonderful times, visits to the Nevele and to Conneaut Lake Park, where Elaine showed her competitive side when it came to skee ball. And then, Dan, you decided to retire in 1999. And with that decision, you made the choice to move down to Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, where you and Elaine enjoyed life for nearly 6 years. In 2006, you both decided to head a little bit north to Hilton Head, Sun City, South Carolina. This was so you could be a little bit closer to where Linda and the boys were living. Visits with your children and grandchildren were delightful, and nothing gave Elaine more joy than to lovingly schlep her family to every unique place possible, including the Kazoo Museum in Beaufort, South Carolina. Dan, she was fun, and she was very special. You described Elaine to me with these words: caring, compassionate, and loving. No, Dan, you might not remember that actual ceremony in that shul in Corey, Pennsylvania, but I'll remind you that in the Jewish wedding ceremony, there's a moment we describe as the 7 wedding blessings, the Sheva Brachot. It's when the second cup of wine is exchanged. When we get to the moment in the Sheva Brachot where the bride and groom are mentioned, they are described with these 2 Hebrew words, Re'im Ahuvim. And literally translated, Dan, this means loving partners. This is what you and Elaine were for 61 years of marriage. Re'im Ahuvim, truly loving partners. David, the first words that came out of your mouth in describing Mom were caring, loving, supportive, strong, and proud. You said that Mom found a way to make things fun. She could make a bad situation so much better. Once in your teens, maybe around 15 years old, you were really angry about something. Really, really angry. And she said, look, if you want to pound something, here's some wood, here's some nails, go into the basement. And you did. You started pounding. You pounded those nails into the wood, and, David, just like your mother, you ended up turning this into a beautiful art project. Your mom was so creative, and the 2 of you shared that quality of creativity. You also enjoyed hanging out in the kitchen, watching her cook, learning from her. You and the family mentioned so many of her delicious delicacies, including her chopped liver, her matzo ball soup, and her homemade spaghetti sauce. She was quite the balabust. Linda, your mom turned out to be your best friend. The 2 of you spoke every day on the phone, usually during the evening news, but every day you would speak. Saying goodbye seemed to be a difficult chore for you and your mom. It was a challenge because there was always more to say. You'd say goodbye, and then there was a but wait. And these conversations were cherished and precious. Your mom was a role model to you and to David. You shared with me that you admired her sense of style. You said she always looked so great, so well dressed, stylish from head to toe. And even this past Saturday, when she wasn't feeling so well. and you had to call the EMT. When they arrived, they asked her if there was anything they could do to help her. And your mom looked at them and with a straight face said, "Well, you could give me a manicure." Linda, you and everyone admired Mom's sense of style, but also her sense of humor. And you adored what you described as her sense of whimsy. Your mom created a home that was filled with joy and positivity. There were the feel-good sayings that were strategically placed throughout the house. Even uplifting and positive quotations could be found in the shower. Her kaleidoscope collection and the basket on the table filled with kazoos. These are just a few examples of her love and playfulness. And her grandchildren, Jessica and Robert and Alex and Stephen. I know that we all will be listening to your words and memories in just a moment. But you should never forget how much she absolutely adored you, loved you, and how very proud she was of you and all your accomplishments. And I know that David and Linda will understand that I must at this time mention Elaine's favorite child. That was her dog, Sammy. She adored little Sammy, and they brought each other so much joy. Elaine was a wonderful and trusted friend to so many, and I know that there are many of her friends and even family members who are watching our service this morning. No matter if you lived in Cleveland or Florida or South Carolina, wherever Elaine and Dan resided, no matter where you lived, she was always there for you. In a recent letter written to Elaine and Dan, one couple wrote the following: "We feel blessed to have our special friendship through the years. We have special memories of visits and phone calls that will stay close in our hearts." And another friend recently wrote a letter to Elaine and shared the following. She said, "I'm writing this to you because I want you to know how much your friendship of more than 60 years has meant to me. I have such great admiration for your strength and positive attitude in the face of adversity." Well, Dan, Elaine did possess a remarkable inner strength. And when she was faced with adversity and health challenges, she could have easily lost hope. She could have become bitter. But she did not. She remained Elaine. She remained an active and vital part of her family and her community. Elaine never stopped moving forward and giving of herself. Throughout her lifetime, she practiced tikkun olam, that is, the repairing of our world. She did this through acts of kindness and her volunteer work. Elaine was a past president of the Temple Women's Association at the Temple Tifereth Israel. She volunteered at the Coastal Carolina Hospital, working in their gift shop. She gave her time and energy in volunteering for Staying Connected, an organization where individuals who were infirmed seniors and needed assistance were supplied with that help, with that assistance. She was very devoted to that group as well. And with you, Dan, she volunteered at the Parris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot, where several times a year the two of you would lead Jewish worship services for not only the Jewish Marines, but many of our non-Jewish Marines would participate and enjoy the services that you and Elaine led. While in Hilton Head, in her late 70s, Elaine made a decision to become bat mitzvah, and she learned and celebrated that occasion as well. She enjoyed her card clubs, she loved to play canasta, and she really also enjoyed playing maj. And she had an entire room in her home dedicated to her love of creating beautiful things. Her craft room was filled with all kinds of art supplies. She loved to paint, and if something needed bedazzling, you better look out. Anything she could get her hands on in order to make more beautiful, she would do. Her grandson Stephen shared with me that she was able to make something out of nothing. Her charming handmade cards, perhaps some of you are recipients of those cards, with their decorated envelopes and her signature trademark on the back of each card, which said, "Made for you by E." Elaine loved to send these cards to family and friends, especially if you were ill or just feeling down. She definitely picked up so many of you when you might be having a bad week. And on top of all that, she was really a gifted and talented painter. She would sometimes start from scratch. Other times, she would repaint over another painting, always able to make something better than it was. As I sat with Elaine's family yesterday, as I listened to the stories and the memories, as I felt the love, as I learned more about this remarkable woman, a certain piece of poetry came to mind. The words I share with you are written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson writes on what it means to be a success. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics, and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden path, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you lived. This is to have succeeded. Elaine has succeeded. We have a tradition, a saying that tells us words which come from the heart enter directly to the heart. At this time, her grandchildren have words in their heart that they want to share with all of us.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jessica. I'm the oldest and favorite granddaughter. And then my cousin Steven will both be reading poems today. This is called When All That's Left Is Love by Rabbi Alan S. Mahler. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking the street beside you. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your simchas and multiplying your mitzvot. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not on your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our Torah teaches. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
Hi, this is called For Those I Love. When I'm gone, release me. Let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You mustn't tie yourself to me with tears. Please be thankful for our beautiful years. I gave to you my love. You can only guess how much you gave in happiness. I thank you for the love you each have shown, but now it's time I traveled on alone. So grieve a while for me, if grieve you must. Then let your grief be comforted by trust. It's only for a time that we must part, so bless the memories within your heart. I won't be far away, for life goes on, so if you need me, call me and I will come. Though you can't see or touch me, I'll be near, and if you listen with your heart, you'll hear all my love around you soft and clear. And then someday, when you must come this way, I'll greet you with a smile and say, welcome home.
For those of you who don't know me, my name's Alex. This is my cousin Robert. I would say favorite grandson, but there's three of us. I don't know. Robert and I are just going to say a couple things in particular. I guess having been here a few times over the past few years now, it's always difficult at a time like this to describe somebody or say everything that you'd like to say and tell all stories that you have that come to mind. But over the years, I've realized that while this is a time to mourn, it's also a time to celebrate a life well lived. And that celebration continues long past today and this particular moment. In talking about Elaine, or in this case our Nana, we can begin to scratch the surface of how we feel and the things that we'd like to say here today, knowing that our thoughts, stories, memories and lessons learned will carry with us and be shared through time. In general, Nana's life was not complete without knowing everything happening in each of our own lives. She took a vested interest in all things related to her grandkids, no matter how small the detail. Getting the question asked, what's new, quite literally meant talking about every single topic that we could think of since we had last spoken or seen her. But as time passed and we grew older, it changed to us asking the question back, and we got to learn a lot more about our Nana as well, which helped grow and strengthen our relationship over the years. Our families over time have lived in different states, but that has never stopped Nana from finding ways to create memorable experiences together while reinforcing the importance of our family and traditions. She would always add her own creative spin with decorations and a delicious meal to accompany the event. Just a few include making teglock together, celebrating Thanksgiving. That one year we had Thanksgiving, and our famous family event of Seder by the Sea, in which during our Passover Seder that we had on the beach, we were visited by Elijah in the form of a skunk. And luckily he didn't stay for the wine.
Hi everyone, I'm Robert, Elaine's oldest grandson. So creativity for specific events wasn't even a fraction of everything our Nana worked on. Our grandparents' house, as you've heard, was usually overrun with arts and crafts, and Nana spent endless hours on these various projects. If you could name it, she decorated it. It was a running joke that if you stood still too long, that you would leave the house painted and bedazzled yourself. Beyond the art that went up around their house, she did decorations and gifts for her family and friends, each time trying to tailor the end result with the specific person or family member in mind. And if she couldn't make it, she would go out and buy something at the nearest dollar store and mail it out. Of all these projects and gifts, the most thoughtful were the cards she made. Whether it was a holiday, a birthday card, anything in between, everyone received a personalized card with a decorated envelope and classic signature on the back that, as you heard before, was "For You" by E. To some, it may have seemed like a quirky gesture, or maybe it wasn't appreciated because you got them often, but in reality, they were unbelievably thoughtful, memorable, important to her, and important to all of us. Nana's creativity and thoughtfulness extended beyond just her arts and crafts. Every time we were together, no matter what the age, she made it her goal to find games and experiences, both new and old, that would be fun, interactive, and bring us all closer together. A large part of that revolved around playing different versions of card games or dominoes. She introduced us to Rummy Cube, which our family still plays to this day. Also, we would travel to different parts of South Carolina and Georgia or Cleveland to learn about the local history and culture. It didn't matter what the activity was, as long as we had fun and we were all together. One of the more notable experiences was a family trip to the kazoo factory near Bluffton. It was a fun activity that Nana said all her friends were talking about and bringing their grandchildren to. Little did she and our group know that the other grandkids were out in elementary school. Even though we felt a little bit out of place, she created a great memory for us that we all share to this day. We were laughing about yesterday, and we still have the kazoos as proof. So, this is a small portion of everything that makes up our history, our relationship, and our love for our Nana. Throughout all of these years, and even in recent events, she's always continued to be positive, thoughtful, creative, fun, and smiling through it all. It's that perseverance to fight and to be herself that's what truly makes our Nana Nana. Her personality and the experiences that we all share made her into a powerful force that's felt by everyone who's surrounded her and loved her. We've all had a bit more warmth and enjoyment and smiles in our lives because of her. While she may no longer be physically with us, She's shown and taught us by example to continue to push to be better versions of ourselves and to take the time to be more thoughtful, more creative, and more fun with people still around us today. Her memory will live on through all of you and certainly through all of our grandkids here. So, thank you all.
As you are able, I invite you to rise for our memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Amsei Menocha Nechona Tachat Kanfecha Shechina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Torim, Gezochar Arakim Azhirim, Et Nihishmat Tzivia Malka, Bat Louis Vebesi, שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן טרם מנוחתה. אהנה בהרחמים אסתירך, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותתרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום, על משכבה ונאמר אמן. O merciful God who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Elaine Roth, who has gone now to her eternal home, may Elaine's soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen. Please be seated. We will be processing to Mount Olive Cemetery, and the family will receive visitors today following the interment until 7 p.m., and again tomorrow from 10 a.m. until noon, and then 2 until 5 p.m. Visitation will be at the residence of David and Annie Roth at 3373 Belvoir Boulevard in Beechwood. This is located between Chagrin and South Woodland. Anyone who's wishing to make a contribution in memory of Elaine, the family has suggested that you might consider either the Palmetto Animal League of Ridgefield, South Carolina, or the Bluffton Self-Help Development Department of Bluffton, South Carolina. On behalf of Dan and the entire family, we thank you for your love and support on this sad yet important day.